So it's on your page?
It's on my Facebook profile. Okay, let me tag you.
Oh. Yeah, I don't see it.
I haven't tagged you yet. Give me one sec. Alvin,
Oh. But going straight to your,
my Facebook profile.
the personal one, right?
Yep. You saw it?
Maybe it takes a while, I guess. I don't know. Well, well.
Saw it?
No, not yet,
Not
actually.
yet. That's weird.
Do you see it?
Yeah, I see it on my profile.
Oh, strange. Profile, yeah. Never mind.
Okay,
Alright.
let's start.
Let's start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. So yeah, welcome to I think my fourth or fifth episode of my podcast called Milk First and Zero Second. Milk First, Zero Second.
Okay.
Today here with me I have the man who sold his company for $30 million, founder
Ew.
of Vodian, and I have a privilege to it's my privilege to have him here with me on my podcast. So before I start, right, I want to do a quick intro of I think I've never really explained what's the meaning of my podcast name. Milk First, Zero Second.
I thought it was just the way that you like your cereal.
No.
No.
I eat my cereal. I mean, I pour the cereal first and then pour the milk. But I name it the other way because I think I think a lot of people don't understand why it's being done a certain way.
Okay.
They just do it like based on what feels right, and really the goal is just to throw rocks at people who just do the conventional way of doing stuff and they
Okay.
don't understand the intention behind it. So that's the
Okay.
whole meaning of the podcast. So
All right.
yeah, okay. So anyway, for those of you watching, see on Facebook, if you're watching, probably you find why the hell is this podcast name so weird. That is the reason.
It's like
Okay,
a
so
pattern interrupt, man.
better interrupt, yeah. I tested it on Facebook first.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So today here I have Alvin with me. So Alvin, maybe just want to do
Hey.
a quick intro of yourself. You used to start Vodian. What are you working
Yes.
on right now?
So about like when I was 17 years old, I started Vodian and grew it into the largest web hosting company in Singapore. I sold it for $30 million in 2017. Then I went traveling around the world full time. I only came back this year. And for this year, I decided to become a coach for entrepreneurs. So I coach entrepreneurs to scale up their businesses using systems, using processes, using efficiency. That's what I do.
Nice. So how long have you traveled? So 2017 to 2019, 2020.
Uh,
Oh,
for the
3 years.
traveling part,
Yeah.
happened after 2018. So 2017 was the acquisition. I
Yeah.
stayed on for 1 year, and then I left in end of 2018.
Okay.
Then I started traveling. That was
Nice.
when I
So
decided to sell everything, and that's where the minimalist thing came about.
minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah, man, that's when I fully embraced it. I was like, whoop, my whole life just could fit into 2 duffel bags.
Wow.
That was it,
And
man.
and you live in a rental house right now
Yes.
because you might want to head out anytime.
Well, I mean, I only returned to Singapore this year, and
Okay.
I mean, all along, I actually found that I like renting a lot because I enjoy the variety and I enjoy exploring Singapore. When I was a kid, I had one place. My family's home was in Kovan, and
Okay.
I was there for when I was 1 month old, and I stayed there all the way till I was like 20-ish, right? And that was my only neighborhood. And after that, I started to rent, and I've been able to like rent in various neighborhoods of Singapore and start to like experience and see how different neighborhoods are, which is great. Because I mean, I don't know if you share the same kind of like mentality, but like for me, I have that notion of wanting to explore, notion of wanting to see how things are like in another neighborhood. And it's so different from how life was like for me when I was growing up in Kovan. Right now I live in Farrer Park,
Okay.
and it's so different. Like I'm right next to Little India, And because of that, I get a lot of like Indian cuisine, Indian food. And this place is so near the town. I didn't realize how near town it was. Do you see the Uptown at Farrer advertisement?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm literally like not next to it, but I'm near it. But it's true, man. It's only 2 stops away from the
Okay. It's the ad which went quite kind of viral, right?
Yeah.
The
People
one?
were saying
Yeah.
it was like sexist and like
Oh yeah.
whatnot. But
Quite
hey,
funny.
in terms of marketing, I think it works, man. Now everybody knows Uptown at Farrer.
Yeah, brilliant marketing. So anyway, so just wanna understand your story a bit better. I
Yeah.
kind of heard here and there. So what got you? So you started your business in uni, no, poly,
Yes. At 17.
at 17. It was as a designer,
Yeah. So at
freelance
17
designer.
years old, all that I needed was or wanted was pocket money. Enough. Because all my pocket money from my parents was enough for maybe lunch at school and
Okay.
enough for my bus fare. But I wouldn't have enough if I wanted to go out with my friends, if they want to hang out like at Orchard or something. I had to come up with some form of money. And back then, the only way was to have like a part-time job, and those
Okay.
paid about $5 an hour. So one of the things that I did in my free time was to use the computer a lot. And I learned graphic design, I learned programming, I learned all these things. And then I realized that people actually wanted to pay me for my services. Like they wanted a website, and this was my family friend, right? A relative.
Mhm.
And he asked me, hey, can you make a website for me? So then I said, okay. I didn't know, right? Back then, I first website, I didn't even know how to do it, but I figured I could learn, and so I did, and I just created something for him, and he liked it, and paid
Okay.
me a token sum, right? But I mean, even though it was not much, I think the more important thing was that it showed me that it was possible and that people would pay for that. And I was like, hey, if he would if he would pay for it, then other people will as well. So then I started going out and like posting like classified ads, but free ones, and
Okay.
then growing from there. And in poly, because that's where I met my co-founder, we started working on the business together, and then it just grew and eventually pivoted into the web hosting company.
Okay. What got you? What was the moment where you decided I want to stop with the freelance designing stuff and
Yeah.
shift into a product-based business?
Back then, as kids, right, like at 17, 18 years old, we didn't know the concept of scale. But what I did was essentially finding a more scalable way of growing the business. So growth in business, I mean, if you have a increasing revenue, right, that people think is great. But like, what's necessary to that picture is also where your expenses are. So if your revenue is like this and your expenses are just like tracking it going up this way, right, then you're
Yeah.
not really like scaling. You're just growing, right?
Growing.
But in scale, you're trying to just break that ratio. So either you break the expenses so the expenses doesn't track and then it goes this way, or you break the revenue and try to increase revenue so that even though expenses increase, revenue increases faster. And for us, a product-based business meant that, because as a freelance web designer, even as a web design business back then, we spent a lot of time with our clients. And as students, it was tough. It was tough to juggle work and school. So one of the things that we realized very quickly was that it's not very scalable. So when we look at web hosting, it was something that we found that all our clients needed, and that it was very much more scalable, because hey, you need hardware, but on each hardware you can actually put multiple servers or multiple
Okay.
customers. Yeah,
So
and that's how it goes.
did you at that point of time did you hire, like before you transitioned or pivoted to Vodian to where it
Yeah.
is right now? Did you hire like freelancers yourself to serve other
No,
clients?
back then
It's just
there was no freelance marketplace. I mean, even freelancer.com wasn't around yet, and it was quite
okay.
tough finding freelance help. So the
Okay.
only way you could do that is to use like classified ads. Like eBay had the classified ads back then. I don't even think Craigslist was around. But I mean, we were students, right? And the one thing that we had was time. So we tried to do everything ourselves. That was the
Okay.
way we
Cool.
started. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to ask you from a point of view. So from scaling, so I understand right now you are serving a lot of clients. helping them to scale their business, right?
Yes.
So I think for myself, like I understand, I think majority of people understand, okay, systems, we need systems. But what do you think is the difficult part about implementing it?
Wow. That's a lot. I used to think it would be very easy. I used to think it was a knowledge
Uh-huh.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Either you know or you don't know, right?
Yeah.
But it's more than that because knowledge is actually pretty abundant. If you wanted, you could really go to the library and borrow a book, or you could go to YouTube and watch a video, or you could even Google and maybe find something about scaling, right? But I think the difference is, having the right mindset. Like, if you don't have the mindset to scale, whatever you do probably wouldn't stick or probably wouldn't be done the right way. So mindset is really, really important. Actually doing it also is very important. Like, I know one of the problems of reading books is that it's knowledge, but whether or not you take action on that is another thing, right? So
Yeah.
how do you ensure that you actually take action? And again, take action on the right things in the right order as well, right? And then lastly, if you have a community, back then when I was running Vodin, it was just my co-founder and I, and sometimes it would be like echo chamber, right?
Okay.
Because it's like him and I are very, very alike, especially in the vision that we have, right? Which is good, but if you want like a third party perspective, then that's terrible because him and I usually will agree on things. Or if we would disagree, then yeah, sure, but we would disagree on maybe like the same things as well. So having that perspective, having that insight, having that third party view, I think can be tremendously helpful. And so I think that's what's required for scale, not just knowledge.
So at what point, so as you were like a lean team, right? Two, 3-man team.
Yeah,
And usually at the start, it's, you just want to get more sales to get at
yeah.
least a bit of cash coming in to kind of sustain, feed yourself, etc. So at what point was the shift where you transition from like a sales mindset, like I get more sales, to transiting to okay, I need to spend more time on systems?
Man, that's what I had as a I just blogged about this. I talked about this as well
Okay.
in my master class. It's the life cycle of a business I would broadly categorize into three categories. The first is launch. Launch is like, hey, I'm new. How do I do things, right? So there's a lot of discovery in the launch stage. Who are your target market? Who are your target audience, right? And what's your product market fit? Is that even a fit, right? You're discovering all of that. Why you exist. That will take about the first year, maybe the second year, and at a point in time you're really, really small. You're probably like just the founding team, yourself maybe as a solopreneur, or at most maybe one or two people that might help you, but that's about it, right? When you grow a bit bigger, you are in like growth stage. This is where you wear multiple hats. The team is bigger, but you're hiring for your weaknesses. Like for example, if you are good at marketing and you're growing a team, and if your company was in growth stage, you probably hire somebody that will do stuff that you don't like or that you're not necessarily very good in. Like maybe, for example, for me when I was growing, like finance was something that I didn't really enjoy. So finance, billing, accounting, that was something that I hired for first. That was my weakness, right? My strengths was in marketing, design, programming. Those were the things that I kept to myself first until I was like at a comfortable point of time. Then I hired people that could take over those things. Then lastly, the last category is scale. So in scale stage, that's literally when you are hiring for your strengths. That's when you can actually have the cash flow, that you have the ability, that the company is at a point where you'll be like, yeah, even though I am a marketer and I'm good at marketing, I'm going to hire somebody who is even better than I am, so that whatever we do as a company is going to just like start growing a lot faster. Because at that point in time, you're really like developing the leadership, the talent that you have in the company. The company itself is really like 3 to 5 years old at least. There's a lot of maturity and capabilities. So yeah, those are the three stages of a business.
So what was the biggest mindset shift from, say, leading a very small team, maybe 5, 10 packs, to a much bigger team, 20, 30, 40 packs? What's the biggest mindset shift?
Well, I think that's the difference between like a growth company and a scale company. And it's usually around the 5-6 figure range versus 7, 8 or 9 figure range. The difference is, and it lies in this question. When you're smaller, the question that you ask yourself as a founder, entrepreneur is, how do I solve this? Right? And this being like anything that happens in a company. It could be a problem, could be a fire, there's like tons of fires that we have to put out every day. It could be a strategy thing, whatever it is. The question that we ask is, how do I solve this? Right? It's a very individual question. When we grow and we start scaling and we have teams and people and talent and resources under us, the company grows bigger, cash flow is stronger. Now, the question that we ask ourselves is no longer how do I solve this? The question that we ask ourselves, and really this question is something that everybody in the organization should be asking, is how do we solve this? Because that changes the perspective from that of an individual question to that of a question of leverage. It's no longer just based on us, but based on like what we can leverage on in terms of our team, or in terms of our systems, or in terms of our resources. So I think
identifies who identifies the problem at your stage or at the bigger stage, the scale stage?
Well, anybody that can identify a problem. I mean, the identification or the trigger doesn't necessarily come from one particular person.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter who experiences it or who identifies it. The thing is, how the solution should be given or how the solution should be executed upon should be based on a team. Like you don't want one single individual to do certain things. You want to find systems now. You want to find a way to keep things scalable and sustainable. It could be like, for example, client delivery or client project delivery, right? If there's a problem there, you don't want to just like fix it yourself and then that's it, right? You want to fix it yourself, and yes, that becomes company knowledge. That becomes like, okay, this knowledge is now something that I want to be in a SOP or in a system or in a customer or company, a knowledge base, so that next time when somebody experiences this again, I don't have to, or they don't have to repeat the process, or they don't have to like figure things out on their own, or they don't have to do things the wrong way, right? The fact that you figure it out once means that this should be something that's a resource that other people can start utilizing. That's just one example of how you could use leverage.
Cool. Speaking on solving problems, so what are your thoughts on like communications? So in a scenario whereby, let's say, a company or let's say the marketing department faces a problem in, say, ad cost or acquiring customers. So who is like the ideal scenario? Would there be like every single day I have meetings, or would it be like, okay, I identify the problem, the project manager identifies the problem, and the rest kind of knows what to do. They don't have to talk.
Oh no.
They
No, man. So yeah, communication is critical. Usually what happens is, okay, so there are ad hoc things like that, right? That you maybe there's a problem immediately and you want to convene a team to talk about it, or you want a few people that you want to talk about it. That's fine. That's for the ad hoc stuff that appears. But more of a cadence and a regular thing is the need for not just that team, but the company to have a meeting cadence. Cadence being just like, how regular this is and the fact that it's committed to. So we would say that maybe like in my company, we had a weekly update meeting, right? And this is a meeting that I have with my department heads. So all of us start talking about, in a department function, what is progressing, what's a roadblock that we are facing, how is this playing towards the overall like vision or the overall strategy, and all these happen on a weekly basis, right? There are other meetings as well, like for example, a daily meeting. This is attended by a different group of people. For a daily meeting, that's great for customer support also, because that's how you pass information from one shift to another shift. Right? Like, oh, last night maybe there was a problem with this server or this customer's account. Now I got to go because it's end of my shift, but hey, this new shift that's coming on right now. This is what you need to take note of, right? This is the server that has the problem. This is the customer that has that request or whatever it is, right? It provides information flow. So that's something I think is absolutely crucial, and it's up to the company, up to the management, I think, to really define what the intent behind every meeting is, and to have a cadence so that you have information flow, not just like up and down the company through all the ranks, but side to side as well. Yeah.
So what about like, I think this is quite common in like smaller companies, or even maybe, I would say mainly smaller companies. So in an event where, you know, another issue pops up and there's a problem to be rectified, right? And that involves, you know, quite a bit of decision making. So would that, let's say your team member who is, say, just the executive of the let's say the digital marketer, right? Would he just be able to solve the problem alone? Like, does he have to seek permission from, say, the founder, or can he just solve it on his own? Because if he, let's say, every kind of problems he face, he were to ask help from the co-founder, the co-founder is pretty much stuck. Right? So
Exactly.
what is like, you know, the thought process or systems that could alleviate such problems of or over communication?
So this isn't over communication. Like, I think
Okay.
communication is like defined by like the flow of information, right? This is not really communication, but the fact that there is maybe over reliance, perhaps,
Okay.
or maybe it's under training. I don't know what the real root cause is, but the fact that it happens means that maybe it's a problem with empowerment. Maybe the person doesn't have empowerment, or maybe the company culture focuses too much on failure, right? So if there's a culture of like penalizing people, then nobody's going to dare do anything, because they always want to check, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, it stymies growth, progress.
Yeah.
Anybody, like nobody wants to try to do anything at all, because there's that risk, and because the risk is so big, people are paralyzed. Or sometimes it could be the founder's mindset. Maybe there are a few frames of mind that hold us back as entrepreneurs, right? When we want to grow and scale the business, I mean, the mindset shift is huge. Not just that one question that I talked about, right? But to get there involves a lot of overcoming of like assumptions and preconceived notions and frames that we have in our mindset. For example, people cannot be trusted. That's something common that I hear of from like entrepreneurs that I coach. They say that people cannot be trusted, and therefore that leads to them unwilling to let go, unwilling to transfer responsibility, unwilling to let someone go do their job and not micromanage them, or not like, you know, hound them on every step of the way. And you can start to see, once that's there, you can never you can never grow a team, because you always want to like hold on to it and never let go. So I mean, there are many reasons why that happens. But communication is a good thing. I think that there are other underlying reasons that happens.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So in let's talk about right now, right? For example, like Zoom meetings right now in a remote team. So is there I don't know, a problem where, you know, I have too many meetings, what's a good amount? In a remote team, let's say, you know, 5-10 packs.
So I think the intent has to be very clear. If it's communication, if it's, say, you want to find alignment on like a project or on as a company, then that meeting will fulfill that. If it's about project updates, then that meeting should fulfill that also. So I would go into every meeting with a very specific intent and an agenda, so that the meeting is
Productive.
productive. And the fact that you have a lot of people also means that, or you have multiple people also means that you need to have good facilitation. Otherwise, if people go off tangent, then it's going to waste a lot of time. And in a meeting, time is not exponential, but it's multiplied by the number of people that's in the meeting. So if you have a 1 hour meeting and you have just one of you, then yeah, it's a 1 hour meeting. But if you have a 1 hour meeting and there's 10 of you inside, it's no longer a 1 hour meeting to a company. It's like a 100-hour meeting.
Wow.
So,
Never thought of that.
yeah, so it's like, 10-hour meeting, sorry. So it's a 10
Yeah.
10-hour meeting is a huge cost.
Mm.
So that's why I want to be very clear about what the intent of every meeting is. It is useful. I know some people are like saying meetings are useless and all that, but I think meetings have their space and their place. It's just up to the entrepreneur to define why and what meetings to have.
Mm.
Yeah.
I want to go back to talking about systems, right? So
Love it.
what do you think is the most difficult part about implementing it? Is it like I just sat down maybe 2 weeks, like a little project, settle all my systems, or at least what I've identified, or is it like maybe monthly I have to look back at it, seek feedback, is a constant review. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a never-ending thing. So it's always going to be something that you have to work on. And it's not a case where, there's this nice line and it's before that there's like no systems, and after that there's like, oh, everything is systemized. It doesn't happen that way. It's a process that you commit to, and there was never a point like in Vodian's journey where the systems are all in place, perfect, and never needing any tweaking or changing.
Okay.
That never happened. I think system thinking gives you the freedom actually to know that things will be there, and it'll be a lot easier to change, rather than you look at it and then there's like so many things happening and so many things that are happening that's not transparent, and you don't know who does what, and all that. It's very unstructured, very unsystemized. So between the two, I'll definitely prefer a system, right? And that at least gives me a place to build and to optimize on. So you could have a system right now, and you realize maybe it's not working out, right? And then you can tweak it. You can realize, like maybe in let's say you go to McDonald's, right? A simple system is you build a McDonald's. Here's what's going to happen in our ordering flow. The customer is going to enter through the door. He's going to join the queue and he's going to pay at the kiosk. After he makes payment, then we will process his order. So there'll be a waiting area and all those things, right? This becomes a ordering or customer flow system. And once that's in place, then it's a lot easier to say, hey, you know what? I'm looking at it and like the customer's spending a lot of time, maybe making payment, right? Or maybe spending a lot of time waiting, right? And that's where you realize that, improvements can be had, and you can improve upon the current system that you have, or maybe revamp it completely. But that's the beauty of it. Once you have these in place, then you can say, okay, let's change that. Let's do this. Let's fix that. Let's make this part better. Yeah.
How much resources, time, manpower do you spend into reviewing your systems, say on a weekly or monthly basis?
You don't have to do reviews of systems per se. You can review outcomes also.
Okay.
So here's an example. Like you don't necessarily review the systems in, say, like you're a marketer, right? You don't review your marketing systems per se. You review manpower. You review processes, because maybe people are taking longer, or client delivery is starting to push deadlines a little bit, and that's when you realize, oh, something is either wrong or not optimized. And then you go look at your current systems, you go look at your current processes, you realize and you find out what is taking up time, what is the bottleneck, and you try to solve that. Most of the time, what happens if you don't have a system is that when that happens, you just hire more. You just, oh, hey, you know what? Things are starting to be a bit late. Clients are getting their projects a bit later and later. Deadlines are not being met. We should hire one more people. And that's what people do. They just throw money at the problem, right? But that's the simplest way and the most inefficient way of doing it. Because if your processes aren't fixed, if your processes aren't efficient, if your systems are inefficient, it's basically just a time sink. Because bottlenecks are crazy. They just like suck time and resources. But once you fix that, then you might not even need to hire. Then you might not even need to yeah, you might even realize that you have so much more capacity just because you fix the bottleneck.
So mainly it's when you feel something is not right and maybe a problem comes up, and then after you review what happened, then it could be a systems issue, and they're going to go and fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That'll be one way of doing it.
Okay.
There are a lot of ways also. So, for example, let's say when Vodafone was growing and we had a number of customer tickets, right?
Yeah.
Say the number of tickets was increasing from like 20,000 and previously it was like maybe 15,000 or 10,000, right? So
Yeah.
we have this like huge amount of customer support tickets that come in. To work on them, to fix them, is incredibly difficult. And what worked in the past, like say maybe 15,000 tickets that you get on a monthly volume versus 20,000 tickets that you get on a monthly volume, it's going to be vastly different because that 5,000 difference is going to be huge. Maybe it's a problem with triage. Do you know the problem? Do you know the concept of triage?
No.
Like in a hospital, right? If you go to a hospital, there's always a triage department because a lot of people go to the hospital, and you can imagine there's a lot of different cases. You could go there because you had a nosebleed, or you could go there because your finger got severed, or you could go there because you can't breathe, right? Depending on who or what these cases are, you're going to get different levels of service. If you're not dying, you're always going to be lower priority versus somebody who cannot breathe. Right? That guy is going to get immediate attention. That is the function of a triage department.
Okay.
Eventually, like for us, we also had to have one because in the past, maybe it was a lot easier because as tickets come in, we'll just solve them and we'll hire more people so that we try to keep up with the flow. But we realized the triage department was necessary because each ticket had different kinds of priority. And customers can't be trusted to prioritize their tickets. If you ask customers to prioritize their tickets,
Everyone is high. Everyone's
yeah, they're always high. They're all dying, and it's never going to be accurate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the introduction of a triage department really like smoothened or create or like made the process a lot smoother, so that the right resources could fix the right cases better. Yeah. So that's just one example.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on? So of course, right now I'm in the hiring process. What are your thoughts on hiring experienced people, so talents, versus hiring inexperienced people, but they have the drive, but they don't have like, if I pass them a task, they need some form of guidance. So what are your thoughts on hiring, paying a premium for talents versus inexperienced?
It's the same thing for any resource. It's dependent on whether or not you can make use of it. I think that's the key. It's never good, especially at the start, especially when not times are lean, but when you're in a lean mode, right? You don't want to like overly spend, or you don't want to spend on the promise of the what if. That's good, only if you can afford it. But if not, then I think the first and foremost priority is to solve the current and the next immediate need that the customer or the company has.
Okay.
Right. So, like for example, if I was a company in growth stage, right, and maybe I was making some profits already, I'm like 6 figures and all that, I wouldn't hire a 20,000 CFO, for example, simply because I wouldn't be able to provide, number one, what he needs, and number two, I wouldn't be able to make use of his resources, his capabilities, and his talents. He's not going to be somebody that would want to work with a 6-figure company anyways. He might, personally he might, but the company cannot make use of him. So I think that question can be answered better once you understand what your needs are. Yeah, personally at the start, my view is always the question of aptitude versus attitude, right? Aptitude being like, how well you do something technically, whether or not you have the skills, you have the competency, and the experience, right? That's aptitude. And then attitude is like your personality, your character, your attitude on work in general, your work ethic, right? For me back then in growth mode, and even in scale mode, actually, I highly prioritize attitude a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah, but it really depends on what role you're looking at. You could hire for both, but it's very expensive.
Especially.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
you
yeah.
can prioritize for aptitude also, but I always found that the best hires would be the ones that at least fulfill the attitude part.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it really depends on the problems that you're trying to solve at the point of time.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
So talking about systems, what do you think are the signs that a biz owner can look out for
Yeah.
that he knows that okay, this is breaking?
uh,
Because like if you're managing a bigger team, it's
yeah.
hard to constantly be on the lookout for certain things unless something huge pops up. It's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I gotta solve this. So what are the signs that I can look for it earlier so that I can stop all these bigger problems from happening?
Well, the litmus test is always is someone too busy? Like, I mean, if as the business owner, as the entrepreneur, we find ourselves always apologizing for missing emails, or or like replying late, or we say sorry because we have this backlog.
Yeah.
I think those things signify the fact that maybe the entrepreneur himself is the bottleneck. Right? And that litmus test can be applied for anybody in the organization as well. Those are the things that, hey, you don't talk about. Then you realize that you're that one person, that individual, is the weakest link.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's one way of looking at it. The other way is to also look at deliverables. If deliverables are like failing, deadlines are not being met, that's also something that signifies something is wrong somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, like I said, right, the typical way is to throw money and to hire more, but I think it's a chance also to really look at what is the team doing.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
What do you think is the so you mentioned at the start there was a growth and scale stage. So I'm curious on your thoughts of what is the biggest difference, right? From the biggest difference from say 6 figure to 7 figures and 7 to 8
in terms of the
in terms of anything. It could be mindset, systems, the founder, anything.
well, like I said, the even the way that you hire is going to be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
At 8 figures, 9 figures, you're pushing like uh, capabilities and things, so that when you hire, you're actually hiring for your strengths instead. And as an owner, and at that point in time, you're probably the CEO. You want to make sure that you find people who are better than you at doing
Mm-hmm.
things that you used to do in the past, and your team starts to grow that way. Your focus is no longer executional of like operational stuff,
Yeah.
or executing on stuff. Your role is really talent development, or like leadership development,
Okay.
because the
Okay.
people that you have reporting to you are the ones that will create growth in your
Mm-hmm.
company. They are the department heads, they are the managers, and under them are teams. So the better they are at their role as a manager or as a leader, the better the output that you get as a whole.
Mm. Got it.
Yeah, so that's the primary difference as you start scaling up and you start growing.
Cool. So what about like so right now you have a coaching like an info business kind of coaching stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you see how is it different from say the product based kind of business?
Oh, it's tremendously different. Like right now, the coaching clients that I work with,
Yeah.
they're all in diverse businesses, right? All kinds of
Mm-hmm.
businesses. The thing that I look out for is the fact that they fulfill this acronym that I have, this 5-letter acronym. It's called chaos. The first is C. The C stands for customer centricity. So
Mm.
everybody that I work with is very customer centric. I believe that in business, the role or the goal that businesses have is to really provide the value to customers. That's
Mm.
that's essentially why businesses exist.
Yeah.
Right. So I work with people who are very, very customer centric, knowing that it's not profits that's key, it's customer satisfaction, it's customer success that's key. Right. And these people are also hungry, they are action takers, they are open-minded, and they are also willing to share. Because what I'm building is a community, right? And these people, because they're all in line, they're all aligned, they're all, having the same kind of direction, it means that together as a community, they can all grow together. We can all become bigger than if we were to go for things, alone. So yeah, that's one of the things that I realize is very, very different about a service-based business. It's so much more intimate than a product business. Because I knew my customers back then in Vodian, but it was never never to this level of intimacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how would you systemize like a service-based business, since it's very much dependent on like a particular expertise or skill set, talent? So how would you systemize a service-based business?
Well, I'll find ways to make things more scalable.
Okay.
Like we have to be intent first in our thinking. And I just jumped off a call with a client. It's the same thing. Like sometimes we have assumptions in our heads that affect us because we think that that's what the customer needs, and the customer will just take it. The customer will just like, yeah, that's exactly what I need. I'll take that because you're offering it. And as entrepreneurs, we need to really take a step back and really like look at it and go like, is that really the best thing that it is for the customer? Because this is like the Henry Ford example of asking the customer what he wants. And in the example in that story, Henry Ford basically says that if he had gone to the customer and asked the customer what he wanted, the customer would have just said he wanted a faster horse, right? And Henry Ford wouldn't have created a car. So sometimes as entrepreneurs, we need to know what exactly the customer wants. And in Henry Ford's example, basically the customer just wanted to get from point A to point B as fast as possible, or as efficient as possible, right? And all that they knew in the past was a horse. Henry created a car, and the car made things a lot better, a lot faster, a lot more efficient. And that is the thing that we as entrepreneurs must do. We need to really understand, like, when we talk about, like, even as a service-based business, are the things that we are doing the best way to give the customers that we have the kind of success that they want? Maybe it's not. Maybe there's a better way of doing things. Depending on the industry, depending on your delivery as well. So, yeah, I think the beauty of like systemizing is that the fact that you can, like, it's like a puzzle kind of thing, like that. I kind of enjoy it because I'm very systematic in a way that I think very logical about my approach. And so when I look at things,
were you like a systematic person first, or you had to do the systems and then you became a systematic person?
well, I think I was absolutely like super logical in the past.
Okay.
Even as a kid. So puzzles and challenges and stuff always intrigue me. So I guess from that base, when I look at business, it really is kind of like the same thing, right? I'm like, is that really the best way to do it? Is there a better way of doing it? What are my assumptions? How can I do this a different way? Yeah, and I love that because the mind that we have is a suboptimal thing, I feel.
Yeah.
Because the assumptions that we have are being told to our mind, and if you, it's so meta, right? You have to actually like stop your mind and then start thinking another way, before you can get to a solution.
Yeah, and I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere that your thoughts are not yourself. They kind of wander off somewhere else, but it's not exactly. It might not be exactly what you think, but it might kind of wander off some. So, for example, let's say I want to slim down or I want to become healthier, right? And my thoughts can be, oh, let's eat this cake, or let's eat McDonald's, or let's eat wildfire burgers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like two different entities, not really entity, but like two different kind of people.
yeah.
So
I, I,
yeah,
I still think so, man. This is a great example, right? Because it's your mind that says that you want to slim down, and it's also your mind that says that you want to eat burgers. So wow, how do you reconcile that? How do you make sure that
yeah,
you are controlling your mind rather than letting your mind control yourself? Because the mind just like goes on like at all different directions at all the same time as well. So it gets horribly distracting, horribly like conflicting, horribly confusing. Yeah.
I used to try to do meditation, but I kind of give up already. So the weird thing about meditation is I just kind of sit on the floor upright and just listen to like this soothing music early in the morning. So I was trying to do that, try to keep my mind empty, but there's just random thoughts that
Yeah.
comes to my head. I don't know where it comes from though.
Yeah.
It's just I try to keep myself empty minded, but these thoughts I don't know where they come from. So
Right.
yeah, I think the mind is a very messy place to be in.
Yeah, it is. It is. So my
Okay.
coaching clients also, like, one of the exercises that I bring them through is to be really specific about what is the root cause, what is the question that they are working on, what is the one thing that is holding them back. Because a lot of times businesses, they have a lot of things on their plate, like so much to do. It's never a question of not having enough things to do. It's always the question of how do I focus, or how do I make time, or what do I do, what should I do out of all these things, what should I do next. And the exercise is literally being so crystal clear and being so aware of what is the true question that once solved will move you forward. Right? If you, for example, if let's say you are a I don't know, like, I mean, if you're working on a business, there are 1,001 things that could be going wrong, right? You say like, I just had a staff like leave me, and my hiring process is not right, and like all my projects are being delayed and all that. But maybe the one question that needs to be asked is, how do I really create a solid company culture? Right? Because once you do that, then a lot of those things tend to go away. Like, people don't want to leave that often. People will want to join you more willingly, and because the company culture is great, people are going to start doing good work.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if you don't think about that, then you're basically going to fight everything, right? You're going to fight like, how do I hire, how do I retain people more, right? And maybe you start buying like ping pong tables and offering free beer, and that's the same way that you're going to hire people as well. And maybe because the client project is delayed, you start maybe like hiring more people, or I don't know what you do, but you don't solve the root cause, which is maybe the culture thingy.
So that means the CEO or the co-founder has to have a lot of headspace to think really clearly.
Well, I mean, that's why a lot of big time CEOs like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they always have retreat time. They always have time to, like, Bill Gates takes, I think, 1 or 2 weeks just to go off to a cabin in the woods by himself, and all that he does is just read, right? And he's like, I think, off the grid or something. Steve Jobs loves taking walks away from the office. So I guess what you said, that retreat space, that alone time is absolutely necessary, because if not, what's going to happen is that we're going to be sucked into the daily busyness. And because of that, we won't have time to think. We won't have time to stop and go like, hey, wait a minute, why am I thinking that way? Or why is my mind assuming these things? Or why is my mind jumping into these conclusions? Is that the best thing for me? And then you realize, oh, actually, no. Because the assumptions that I had are wrong. Or because, what I thought was true is not true.
I want to ask more. I think you'll conclude really soon. But I want to ask more about your lifestyle. Is it based on your current lifestyle? Was it like kind of influenced by how the way that you kind of run your business previously?
Which aspect are we talking about? Are we talking about my
In
minimal?
terms of Yeah, minimalism in terms of like intention, keep things simple. I don't want too much mess in the business. That's why
Yeah.
you're kind of minimalist as well. So how has it like influenced you in any way?
I think I got that clarity. Like in the past, I used to have this very clear line between business and my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, especially around the acquisition, that was when I realized actually it's the same thing. Be it business or be it personal life, guess what? It's still me.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized the things that I enjoy in business, simplification, um, just in general, keeping things simple is something that I greatly appreciated in my personal life as well. And that's when I started like trimming down my possessions, focusing on the right things,
Mm-hmm.
keeping things simple,
Mm-hmm.
being very intentional. I think that's also a big
Mm-hmm.
key of what I do and how I do things.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm always like questioning what is the intent? See, if we don't have intent as our priority when we think, then we will just say yes to most things.
Yeah.
Or we just agree and we just go with the flow with most things. But
Mm-hmm.
if we are very mindful and aware of our intent, then a lot of things don't make sense. Like, um, you know, let's say, uh, I get a lot of requests to meet, and I try to be
Okay.
very selective right now because I'm clear about the
You don't know
intent.
what for.
Yeah, the intent. I know what their intent is, but for
Okay.
me, what is my intent? Because if I am to really like to bring my vision to fruition, I
Mm-hmm.
need scale. I need to impact a lot of people. And if I do it
Mm-hmm.
one by one, I cannot. It draws my time away from other people. It draws
Mm-hmm.
my time away from my clients. It draws my time away from creating content that people as a whole can appreciate more. So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of intent, it then doesn't make sense.
Mm. Well, I think intent is really extremely important because I think for myself, what I realized in a psychological point of view is that if there is no reason for you not to buy something or to take something or
Yeah,
to accept something, you just take it.
yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
think that's a huge problem because I mean, if there's no reason, I'll just buy it.
Yep.
I think in sales as well. Like if I overcome all your objections, you buy it. But that
Yeah,
doesn't mean you should buy it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
really good point, man. Yeah, so having intention gives you that principled way of
Yeah.
doing it. That's always people always say about principle, right? Oh, you're so principled. You're
Mm-hmm.
a man of principles. You have principles.
Mm-hmm.
That basically is basically your intent, right? Like if you're very
Mm-hmm.
clear about your intent, why would you do something else? You wouldn't. And for other people, that manifests as principles.
Mm-hmm.
Like if like I am absolutely somebody that's like full of integrity, then I want to make sure that every single thing that I do that questions that, I'll be like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I am of integrity. I will not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you didn't have that intent, then you're right. You're just gonna say like, oh yeah, sure. I don't know. I have no stand about this, so that looks good. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just one last question before I let you go. So it's about goal setting. So for me personally, what I realize is that for goal, sometimes it's a bit dynamic. So
Yeah.
I can set a goal and then few months down, okay, I might want to shift a little, or I want to change things a bit, change
Yeah.
things. So do you is that something familiar, or is that something that you face as well in your time at Vodian, or even right now?
I think goals always shift.
Oh,
Goals are
shift.
like goalposts, right? And they always
Okay.
will shift. But that doesn't matter. Like we don't change them completely. Like we might change the number, we might
Okay.
whatever, right? But like it will change, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fine. Because what we should be focused on is the systems. Like for example, if you want to like say we want to grow sales to like $1 million, and right now we are doing maybe 500,000 right in a
Okay.
year. To get to $1 million, we need certain systems in place. We need to make sure that maybe we do more outreach or we put in more advertising spend or whatever it is, right? There are certain actions that we take in order to get to that goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the goal might change. The goal might change from maybe you don't want $1 million anymore. Maybe you're looking at 800K, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at 1.2 M, right? Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
the things that you do right now will still persist. And because there are systems, right, there are going to be things that you keep doing anyways. Right? You're not going to stop organic traffic. You're not going to stop paid traffic. You're not going to stop all of that. Once you put it in place and you grow to a certain size, you're going to keep at it, either maintain it or start optimizing it. But those will always be there.
So it's back to systems.
Yeah. So I don't know. Even my personal life is all about systems as well. So I think it's something that benefits me a lot, and that's why I want to like teach other people, other entrepreneurs, how to inculcate that kind of behavior, that mindset, that kind of thinking into their business, so that whatever they do will be more sustainable, will be more scalable.
Do you think there is a certain group of people that is more inclined to be a systematic person versus, let's say, a creative type person? Like, for example, if because I'm a more creative type, so I find systems to be a bit hard. I mean, I appreciate it. I understand the importance of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, from your point of view, is there if let's say I'm bad at systemizing stuff, I'm bad at organizing stuff,
Yeah.
would you get someone to implement it for me?
Probably, yeah. The COO or the operations manager will probably be somebody that's more systematic and who can probably like start introducing systems in the business also. Yeah, but you need to find the right people, the right person, and all that, right?
Yeah.
Knowing like being able to do it and knowing how is also different. So training is also involved.
Yeah.
Like nobody's born just like as a COO and like can immediately systemize things, right? Even for myself, I took so much time before I truly like appreciated how to actually think about systems, how to actually implement systems in a logical, structured manner. Yeah, but in terms of personality and attitude and character, I think for that role, you might consider a COO, especially if you're a more creative type.
Cool. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so anyway, thanks. Appreciate you for coming on the call, the podcast. So let's say, when's your next masterclass? Are you holding any?
Probably in Q1 next year in 2021.
Okay.
So
So anyway, if someone's watching right now, where can they find you? Where can they find out more about your class?
Yeah, so my
what do you do?
masterclass is available at alvinpo.com/masterclass. Right now there's a wait list. So if you put in your email address, I'll contact you once I decide to hold a class, and then you'll find out. Yeah, I think that's the best way to know about the masterclass. To contact me and to stay in touch with me, you can look for me on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm present on all of them. So that's the best channels.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, man. I will end this right now.
Appreciate it.
Let me stop share.
Yeah.